today we're going to be going over our Week 7 power rankings for the 2024-2025 NFL season. Without further ado, let's get into these power rankings. So the first tier is the Patriots at 32, the Titans at 31, the Panthers at 30, the Dolphins at 29, the Jags at 28, the Browns at 27, and the Raiders at 26. I know. First of all, I know it's a long tier, but this is sort of the tier of teams that are probably just their fans are making mock drafts at this point. Patriots at 32, they did look okay against the Texans, but they didn't win, and I don't want to move them up from 32 for losing. Titans at 31, it was pretty much the Titans or Panthers were going to be at 30 or 31. And I was more impressed with the Panthers' loss than the Titans' loss because the Panthers, until the very end, were in a competitive game versus the Falcons, who are better than the Colts, who the Titans were in a competitive game with. It was 50-50. Dolphins at 29, I don't want to put them too low because, one, they didn't play, and two, they don't have Tua, so they're the one team in here I could see exceeding expectations of these teams just because they could get better simply through health of a very important position, unlike the other teams. Jags at 28 did not look good versus the Bears. I was more impressed with the Browns' performance than the Jags' performance, and then the Raiders. And they just traded away Davante Adams, but they've just been okay. So I have them at 26 still. Next group is the Rams at 25, the Jets at 24, the Jets at 23, Colts at 22, and the Broncos at 21. Rams, again, they didn't play, so I didn't want to move them, and they are here at 25 because they haven't looked great, but I think they might get Cooper Kupp back this week, and they might get Puka soon, so they should be climbing up if those guys getting healthy can really bring them back. Giants at 24, they didn't play great versus the Bengals, but they didn't play awful, so I felt like they could stay at 24. When it comes to the next three teams, the Broncos, Colts, and Jets, all three of these teams lost. The Broncos were 19, and they lost to a decent Chargers team, so I didn't want to move them below the Colts and Jets. And then, again, just like with the Panthers and Titans, I felt like the Colts... Well, the Colts actually won, so I put them over the Jets, but I didn't put them over the Broncos because the Broncos were high, and they lost to a better team than the Colts beat. Next group is the Cardinals at 20, the Chargers at 19, the Bears at 18, the Seahawks at 17, and the Saints at 16. Chargers coming off of a decent win versus a division rival on the road versus the Broncos, so I thought they deserved to be 19 over the Cardinals, who had a blowout loss to the Packers. The Bears at 18, I thought they deserved that spot as they played very good in London against the Jags, albeit it was the Jags, but they had a dominating win and Caleb looked great. However, I didn't want to move them above teams. Although the Seahawks and Saints lost, I didn't want to put the Bears above them, as the Seahawks lost to a top 4 team in football, top 5 team in football in the Niners, and then the Saints lost to the Bucs, who are like a top 10-ish team, and the Bears beat the Jags. So that's why, and they were high up. Like the Bears were 20, while the Saints were 14, and the Seahawks were 16. But they're around the same. Next teams is the Bengals at 15, Cowboys at 14, the Steelers at 13, and the Eagles at 12. Bengals coming off a decent win versus the Giants. I thought they deserved the spot over the teams like the Saints and Seahawks who lost. Cowboys, after their bad loss to the Lions, moved them down a couple spots. However, it was to the Lions, and I still think I don't think they're a terrible team, so I still kept them at 14. But I thought that teams like the Eagles, who had a good win against the Browns, and the Steelers, who had a pretty good win against the Raiders, deserved the spot above them. Then the next group is the Commanders at 11, the Bucs at 10, the Falcons at 9, and the Packers at 8. Commanders, yeah, they lost, but it was against the Ravens. They still played pretty good. And overall, I think they've looked better than teams like the Eagles, Steelers, and Cowboys. However, I feel like the Bucks deserve that spot above them after their very impressive win over the Saints, and then the Falcons, although they beat the Panthers, since they beat the Bucks not too long ago, I thought they deserved the spot above them. And then the Packers sitting at 8, they had a very impressive win versus a decent Cardinals team. However, I think the 7 teams above them deserved to be above them, so I kept them at 8. But I thought that win deserved to have them over the Falcons and Bucks. Next group is the Bills at 7, the Niners at 6, and the Texans at 5. Originally, this was Texans, Bills, Niners. However, if I were to rank the wins of these teams, actually, I probably would put the Niners win above the Texans and Bills win. However, I feel like the Texans played great, and then it really much came, so they deserve to stay at 5, and they played the Patriots, which I guess is the worst team than the Niners and Bills played, but I thought the Texans deserved to stay at 5, and then when it came to the Bills and Niners, I was more impressed with the Niners win than the Bills. And then lastly, the 4 teams who actually did not change spots at all. Chiefs at 1, Vikings at 2, Lions at 3, and Ravens at 4. Although the Ravens and Lions had very impressive wins, Ravens beating the Commanders and the Lions blowing out the Cowboys, I thought Chiefs are undefeated, didn't play. Vikings are undefeated, didn't play. I didn't feel like it was right to move them for not playing and still being technically undefeated. So I kept the Lions and Ravens at 3 and 4, giving the Lions the nod over the Ravens because they had a very, very impressive win over the Cowboys. But they're both 3 and 4, so it doesn't really matter. But these are the power rankings. Not much changed this week, as the top teams pretty much won. Teams 1 through 13 all won. So it's not like you had any of the top teams losing. The best team that lost was the Cowboys. So it was hard for a lot of these rankings to change, but let me know what you guys thought about these power rankings and also just takes in the video overall. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and also make sure you turn that notification bell so you don't miss more content, as the trade deadline is coming up soon, so there'll be a lot happening around then, so make sure you don't miss out on those videos. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.